When it really comes down to it, we're all so deeply connected. It's really important. So tonight we have a light topic. The title tonight is I Am That I Am. And I Am That I Am implies that you have the capacity to choose your state of being. So I am that I am. I am that I am is the mind of the sage. And not only the mind of the sage, but the alchemical capacities of the mind, of the sage mind. The sage mind, what I'm speaking of there, is the mind that has the capacity to choose their state of being in any given moment. And if you were to ask the sage, who are you? I am that I am. Well, what does that mean? Your everyday mind isn't going to understand what that means. But the sage mind understands that I choose my experience. I choose my state of being. I choose my state of consciousness. You do not choose it for me. The environment does not choose it for me. No one chooses it for me. I am the writer of my perspective. SageMind alchemy. Alchemy is the capacity to master energy, to be able to take a lower, denser experience of energy and the capacity to raise its frequency. So SageMind, moving into the capacity to really know I am that I am, and that capacity to own that and to understand that it's you that shapes your perspective, which then your role, our responsibility is to alchemize everything, is to create. The alchemist creates, the alchemist heals. Are you going to just change everything and you're going to be in charge of your state of consciousness by doing this one container? Well, one thing for sure, if you don't do it, they're all designed to keep that wave, to keep that momentum going, and so I'm not going to say to you that do this one thing and you're just going to change your entire life. Now, I can tell you that there are many times that I look back in my life and there were certain choice points, certain choices that I made that definitely made a difference. But the last thing I would ever want to do is set you into doing something attached to the results. Because whenever we are attached to any result, that takes our ability to choose our state of consciousness and pretty much throws it out of the window. Because attachment to the results of anything is going to be coming from the egoic state, the state of separateness. We've got to understand the importance of living according to universal law. And universal law is I live, speak, move, and have my being in everything that I do aligned with that which moves me to sage mind, to living in alignment with universal law, or dharma. And every choice that I make is a choice always moving me closer to full alignment with the function of the universe. So you're going to be able to really just walk away with some just real kind of points here that are going to connect up. Because some of the most important points here that support that broad statement that I just shared with you is that, first of all, I am that I am is the capacity to choose your state of being. Living it with our ego is not the ability to choose our state of being. It's where we live more in separation and as the doer. And when we're living in separation as the doer, we're actually living directly counter to universal law, our dharma. Many of you know that the most important foundation in yoga is referred to as the yamas and the niyamas. The yamas and the niyamas are often referred to as the ethical moral code of living. But it's so much more than that. Because in this vein of where I'm speaking, I am going a bit more subtle. Some of what I'm speaking to you with today comes from the realm that's called mystical language. Most of you are going to be hearing me from a very 3D material realm. That is not where mystical language comes from. Let me give you an example. Like the word judgment, for example. The word judgment from the 3D material world realm is separation and is a decider, this is good or bad or right or wrong. But from higher frequencies and from higher realms. The term judgment is actually the ability to see what is most helpful and what is not most helpful. So the language that we use will always depend on the perspective and the frequency to which we are coming from. And if we're primarily oriented in our perspective, what we refer to as Anamaya Kosha, the realm of the material, the realm of the 3D world, then we're going to hear ethical moral codes like yamas and niyamas as rules to being a good person or a bad person. In other words, these ethical codes become something called dogma. They become fundamentalism. They become ways to shake our fingers at each other and say, that wasn't very kind of you, and you know there's a rule to be kind. But the truth is, you don't really know what you're talking about. You don't understand. Because in the 3D world, these understandings from the perspective of these ethical codes as good and bad become dogmatic. Then we live from a place of hypocrisy. Because then we're doing our training, we're doing the thing, we're showing up all the time, right? And then we see somebody else that doesn't do that, and then something goes a certain way. Next thing you know, we're mad at them, and we're really mad because we're not really living into I am that I am, the capacity to choose my state of being. In fact, we begin utilizing the yamas and niyamas, the ethical moral codes to live according to Dharma, and outside of our ego, we begin to see them as rules of good and bad and actually ways to judge ourselves and to judge others. So this information that I'm offering you tonight is simply a bit of an insight to discernment, to understanding what is the distinction of a sage's mind to, maybe a new yogic practitioner's mind. And again, like I said, you won't just get all of this in this 1 hour talk or even in just one container, but you're going to start to open the door or pierce the veils to higher awarenesses and frequencies. Because the only way you learn a thing is you have to start to hear about it and not understand it. It's like, I'm hearing this thing, I've learned this new equation, I don't understand it, I have no idea what's going on, but I want to know, I want to understand, I want to grow into that. But if I'm never really willing to see it, I'm not going to get a chance to learn about it. It's kind of like saying, I've heard about pizza before, and pizza seems like a good idea, but don't be putting any recipes in front of me and times that it takes to cook and all that. But then I'm going to feel upset because the pizza isn't cooked yet. Well, you never even started. You didn't really do the things that you needed to do. And there's no shame in the fact that you got in there, you got the ingredients, you're like, I'm all in, I mix my pizza, threw the dough, put it in the thing, and gosh, I don't know how long to cook it. I don't know when I should check it or what I should do with it. Oh my gosh, and now it just burnt, or there's something wrong with it, or I pulled it out too soon and I served it. See, that doesn't mean that you're not all in. It just means that you haven't quite learned how to cook the pizza just yet. But you have to know what has to happen to cook the pizza. And the first one you cook isn't going to turn out so great. Maybe undercooked, maybe overcooked. Then the next one, and you just keep doing it. You keep practicing it. But if you never even avail yourself, and of course, many of you guys know every container I do, it's a whole new level of information. If you're not availing yourself to the information, and then even if you are, and then you grip around it and you hold on to it, then what happens to the pizza? There's either no pizza or the pizza becomes a problem, right? Well, that's what this information is like. It's like the deep in the center information. And you're going to hear this information. Some of you are going to hear it from a more 3D, I got to try to make sense of this. You know, some of you might be able to start opening up, hearing it from a little bit higher, but wherever you are in the pizza process, it's all cool. Just be a great student and you're just there and go, oh, put the pepperonis on later. Okay. You know, oh, I don't put the tomato sauce on last. So just sort of see it as a recipe. And what I'm doing right now is I'm tossing out these ingredients. And many of these words you've heard before, but you may not have heard them put together like this. So I am that I am. The consciousness, the mastery to choose your state of being at any given time. And our state of being, we either have the mastery to choose our state of being, or we choose separation and doing, which is the ego. Now, with this being said, what we're talking about here is universal law. This is the basis of the Bhagavad Gita. And this is really the overarching map, in essence, of the subtler teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. In that universal law is basically, whether you like it or not, it's the way things work. It's like whether we agree or whether we disagree, it's just how things work. There's no it being dogmatic. It's just the way things work. And that phrase in yoga is dharma. The whole of the Bhagavad Gita is surrounded in teaching Arjuna about dharma, how to live in the world of duality while also leaning into dharma. Dharma is the universal law, and the term prajna, Prajna, these are a bunch of ingredients here, Ratam, RTM. Prajna is wisdom, and Ratam is the universal order of prajna, of wisdom, within dharma, universal law. The yamas and niyamas are your code for living aligned with universal law. The yamas and niyamas are your code for living aligned with universal law. This is a very important aspect throughout the Bhagavad Gita. I'm going to make a very strong statement here, first time ever. When we are not living according to universal law and the yamas and niyamas, we are in violation of every other being's free will. Period. That's universal law. Universal law is when I am out of alignment with universal law, I am absolutely violating your free will. We are constantly violating one another's free will. That can be a very difficult pill to swallow, because we normally say those people out there are the ones that are busy violating other people's free will. But let me share something with you. If every single one of us, every single human being, had the capacity to do the necessary work of facing the shadow points that are out of alignment and integrating them into their being, we wouldn't have to clean up the planet. The ocean would purify herself. Everything would change dramatically. Dramatically. Just like I say to you, you see a bunch of ingredients laying on a thing and a big pile of flour, and it's like, how can that ever look like something I want to eat? Don't blow off what I'm saying because you don't understand. These are high-level principles, right? But it's not anything that I don't think that you guys cannot be open to. But I want to remind you, everything is energy. And there are just certain ways that energy behaves, and energy doesn't lie. It does not lie. We, for the most part, most humans are so asleep and choose to stay asleep that we're constantly violating one another's free will. You're like, how could I be violating somebody's free will? I buy presents, I bring them food, I take care of people, I do this, that, and the other. Yes, and how aligned is your mind your words with your actions? How aligned are you in the mind? Is what you say and what you think and how you act in absolute alignment with each other? Or are they in conflict with each other? See, we are all constantly given these moments to choose. I put in my notes up here to move on to karma and how karma functions. There are choice points. Many of you have seen this in the 7 stages of the yoga student. We always have a choice point, but the greater choice point that I am sharing with you is that you can choose to stay asleep or confront an uncomfortable truth. When you have a choice to do that, which every day you've got a choice, something is always coming up for you to see yourself for who you really are. Do you choose to stay asleep, or do you choose to face uncomfortable truths about yourself? What do y'all think about that? This is really important. Really important. And A Course in Miracles says the way you know the answer to this is all you have to look at is how often do you get defensive, and how often are you trying to figure out your plan of attack on how you're going to work something out. You know, I got these things to do today. How am I going to work that out? You're violating free will. You're trying to manipulate the situation. I got a plan today, so I'm going to think about it. I'm going to think about it for like 10 minutes. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. You're violating. You're like a bowl. I don't have one up here, but if you strike a bowl, crystal bowl, it doesn't move in a linear direction. You strike a bowl, and that begins to move out in these concentric circles and these vibrational frequencies. You're in your car, and you're like, okay, I got this plan today. I got to do this thing. I got to do that thing, and I'm going to do this. And you're just winding up or getting depressed or doing the thing, whatever the pattern is, or being really smart and making it look so neat. And look how neat I am. And look what a good person I am. All that nonsense. And every last bit of it, it's like you are striking the bowl and it's going out in waves, creating chaos. Chaos is a violation. Being someone that is creating chaos is a violation of everyone's free will that you were involved with in that day and beyond. You can say, I don't agree with that, Padma. Yes, you can choose to stay asleep. It's up to you. Or you can say, you know what? Choice point. I desire more than anything, O Lord, to see the absolute truths within myself. May I see the hypocrisies. May I see the judgments. Show me clearly in any way, shape, or form that I have in any way violated another's free will. How have I done that? We must stay awake. The only way we can do that, the only way that we can be led to higher spiritual evolution is we are going to have to choose to stay awake. To choose to stay awake means that we're going to have to be willing to face some very uncomfortable truths. Now, I am not here to sell anybody on anything. I'm here to enroll you in higher states of evolution. And if you don't have an interest in it, that is absolutely, totally, and completely cool, except for the fact it's still violating my free will if you're out there busy violating your free will and everybody else's free will. But I can't control that, and I'm not going to be concerned about that, right? Because what's our role? Our role is to have a complete open space to see our own areas that we need to wake up. Now, what am I really talking about there? Shadow work. The shadows of our lives, they're not some sinister, dark thing where you're like, you've got your long fingernails tapping, and what sinister thing can I do? The shadow side, it's the wounded part of you. It's the wounded part of you that will stare somebody straight in the eye and say, I don't know who did that. When you know exactly how you were involved in it. Maybe a little bit. I don't know. I don't know how that happened. I'm not sure. I wonder what she was thinking. All those little quiet microaggressions that keep us asleep and keep us covering our own ass. They're little things. They go on all the day. I hear them here. I'll hear them from people that I'm chatting with. And the thing is this is not about dogma and separation. This is where your power is. Your power is found in those places that you're able to see yourself and say, there it is. There it is. There's the judgment. There's the fear. There's the anxiety. How do I know that? Because I want to control it. And if I control it, and you might say, well, I don't act on it. Your thoughts have way more power than your actions, my friends. Your thoughts have much more power because your thoughts are what result in your actions. Your thoughts will always become your words, and your words will always become your actions. And this isn't a talk tonight to have me up here shaking a finger going, you need to do this and you need to do that. Because the truth is, I don't even have the energy for something like that. I'm not that concerned about that. I seek for everyone to do exactly what they choose to do, while at the same time holding a higher vision for our world, holding myself responsible for why our world is the way it is. It requires a radical accountability. And no matter what, when we are in violation of Dharma, of universal law, we are no doubt literally invading another's free will. There are three main conditions for us to be aligned with Dharma. And these were the teachings of Krishna to Arjuna. We must hold ourselves absolutely responsible for every single action and non-action that we take. Absolutely responsible for every single action and non-action. What do I mean by non-action? Are the things you're thinking and then you speak and they're completely different. It's the, I say this is important to me, but I'm not going to act on it. This is important to me, but I'm not going to act on it. This is important to me, but I'm too scared to speak my truth about it. So to become absolutely responsible for every action and every non-action. The third condition is you must be deeply committed to non-violation of another's free will. You remember that part in the Bible somewhere where it says, through the lust in your eye, you have already been an adulterer? The teachings of whatever it is in your mind, you have already done. It is done. And if we think that we can sit around in our minds having insanity going on in our minds and having chaos going on in our minds and then say, oh, I don't violate anybody else's free will. Well, if you withdraw love from yourself and you violate your own sense of who you say you want to be, the yamas and niyamas. If you're not sure what the yamas and niyamas are, they are in the Yoga Sutras, and they're basically the ethical codes of conduct. One of the most important first ones is non-harming. The most egregious act of harm that we do is the withdrawal of love that we hold back from ourselves. The most egregious act of harm. Because that is the seed for every other harmful act. Every time you've withheld love from yourself in that cruelty, you have sown another seed and you have violated Dharma. You have literally violated the free will of others through your own withholding. We are not separate beings. It's a falsehood, and it's something of the ego to think that we're separate. Every thought you think is affecting everybody else in this room right now, everywhere you go. We're talking about an extremely high level of accountability and responsibility. Result, an extremely high level of self-love, of forgiveness, and of the capacity to really be able to affect your world. As I share with you guys here, we're at these choice points. You know, it's not just a place we land. We have to decide. When I'm at these difficult choice points, am I going to stay asleep? Or am I going to see? Am I going to take responsibility for the shadow that is arising in me? How many of you have had no shadow show itself to you today? None of us can raise our hand. And in that moment, what did you do? You know, it's like, what did you do? Because in that moment, when that shadow arises, it's a call for mercy. It's a call for love. I'm talking about the power of love that is the power of the universe. Love has its own conditions, my friends. Unconditional love has its own conditions. It says, follow the Dharma. Because if you don't, you won't know me. If love had a voice, it'd say, follow the Dharma, or you're not going to know me. You will have no idea what you're dealing with here. So love does have conditions, but not in and of itself. In and of itself, it's saying, I am the natural experience of the universe and of your being, and behave outside of universal law, and you will not know what that is. And you will think everyone else is doing it to you. Therefore, you will then separate even more and then blame others. But as we begin to understand more and more, what is violation of others' free will? Y'all, I do want to hang out with people that want to wake up. It's not bleak. I promise you. This is not some sort of bleak thing to say, oh my God, you know, I'm so upset about the way this thing is going and the way they did this and the way they did that. Oh, there you are. Well, they violated my free will. No, you're dogmatic. Because you don't even know what violation of free will is the minute your finger comes out just like this. The minute your mind comes out and says, they did, you don't know anything. You have no clue what you're talking about. It's in that moment that you need to go, I'm at a choice point. What's happening here? What's going on? Where is my responsibility and my perspective of what's occurring here? You know, today something occurred that really triggered a fear in me, which is a shadow. Like if I feel like something's not going to go right, I'll get fearful and feel anxious. And then I just want to poke somebody, right? And just want to shake somebody. But see, this part around absolutely responsible for action and non-action. First thing I did was I looked at the shadow. Like, there you are. Scared. Who's going to have mercy for that shadow, for that little energy? It's me. Should I expect somebody else? Right? It's between me and Ishwa. So that's the first thing. It's like, okay, what's happening? And then immediately, I'm going to take responsibility. But that's my power. My power is, where was there non-action? Where was something that maybe needed to be said to someone? Or maybe an action. In this case, it was more of a non-action. It's like, there's a non-action there. Something was important to me. Non-action. And immediately, I was back in my power again. Right away, it's like, yeah, the Empress is in the room. Because that's power. Power is, I've got to be willing to see where I want to go to sleep. Stay awake, see her, have mercy for her. And then move into that inner space within my own being and say, okay, what is it that's needed? What's needed here? Oh, okay. Well, here's my ability to respond, to communicate this thing, to offer this thing. That's called getting into alignment with the Dharma and being the creator I'm meant to be. We don't experience ourselves as the creator we're meant to be when we're too dang busy going to sleep because we just want to numb out to the ways we behave and that we're not crazy about. There's nothing wrong with you. It's the nature of being. The nature of being is that shadow is going to be part of our experience, just like the light is part of our experience. Your job as the great unifier in the karmic field is to unify the shadow and the light, is to see and is to raise it up, and to raise it up for a third possibility. To see it. Let thy body be filled with light, and thine eye will become one. One of the greatest teachings ever, and it runs rampant all through the Bhagavad Gita, the Bible. I mean, it's everywhere. Let thy body be filled with light. Let yourself see. Be willing to see. And the third condition is that you must take responsibility for the fact that everything that you perceive that happens to you is you. In other words, you've got to acknowledge that you have 100% free will and nothing happens to you that you didn't invite. I know, this is not a training for babies. 100% of what occurs to you, you must acknowledge you have free will. If you're not experiencing what you seek in your life, if you're not liking what's going on at work, if you don't like what's happening in your body, you are responsible. And when you acknowledge your free will, then you're back in your power again. Do you guys understand? Remember earlier when I said, hearing my language, I'm speaking what is referred to more as twilight language or mystical language. Right? If you're hearing this from the very material 3D world, you're going to hear blame. And that's just something you're going to need to deal with, because I'm not going to try and fix that for you. And I have no apologies for that. You need to decide. And guess what? Even if you see that happening, you go, oh, there it is. There's my view. I see that. Oh, yay. I'm waking up. I'm waking up. I can see. I can see what I'm doing. I can see that I'm hearing something at one level of density that can actually have an expanded, higher perspective, which brings us to perspective. You're the writer of your own perspective. You know, if you get in your car and your car breaks down and there's a thing that happens and this, that goes on, and you jump into a story of, oh, dang it, my car's broken down, and then I don't know, saying, how am I going to get to work? You can go with that if you want to. That's one perspective. Most people will say to me, no, that is what's happening. I'm like, yeah, in your world, that's what's happening. But decide what your story is going to be. See, to acknowledge that you have free will means that you have free will to write the story. And the alchemist, when they write their story becomes their life. What you speak becomes your reality. If your mind and your words and your actions are not aligned, your reality is chaos. If your mind and your words and your actions are aligned, then that is what your life becomes. But you've got to determine. It's really quite simple, but something for you guys to work with each and every day to help you practice rewriting your story. Aren't you guys tired of the same old story? I mean, why is it that one person can have a car breakdown and they go, oh, this is the end of the world, and the other person goes, wow, for whatever reason this happened, thank you, God. Thank you so much. Because I know that there's a reason for everything, and chances are I missed something that I didn't really want to need, didn't really want to have to go through. So now I'm open for the next step. And oh, yes, I see in my mind the perfect place where I'm going to take the car. I'm going to get the ride easily enough. And I write the whole story. And then I keep telling myself that story. But that takes power. That takes power, and that takes choice. We cannot transform our perspective with a mind that wants to stay asleep. If the mind wants to stay asleep to the shadow and is not willing to go, there I am again, then we're going to have a very difficult time transforming our perspective. And it is your choice. Do yourself a favor, especially you guys in Master's Path. Never, ever, ever, unless you're just really wanting to hear about it from me, say, sorry, Padma, I can't do that. I've got this or that happening. I have no choice. Really. I mean, seriously, stop it. Get fast from that. Get that out of your lexicon, because you do have a choice. Your choice is stay asleep or comfortable truths. And those very uncomfortable truths is that you like being a victim, you get something out of it, and it works for you to say, I can't, I'm not able to, I don't have a choice. This is what it looks like. You have a choice for whatever you see as a priority. You have a choice to step into whatever is most aligned with who you say you're going to be. You do have a choice. Everybody has what they see as a priority. You are not victims. What does it look like? Somebody give me an example. When you withdraw love from yourself, what does that look like in language? Stay home, depression, get defensive, get the thing done no matter what, self-judgment. Not nice things, huh? And we're probably all talking kind of nice around what we're actually saying to ourselves. How does that cause you to want to behave when you start talking to yourself that way? Does it make you want to be nice to people? Does it make you want to have patience for the wicked? Does it make you want to celebrate the success of those that have achieved something you haven't been able to achieve? Does it cause you to want to step up to a high place of expansion? It doesn't, does it? Not at all. Withdrawing love from yourself, being cruel. When you're being cruel to yourself, you're violating my free will. Why? Because we're not separate. But remember, y'all, I'm not talking about the 3D. Well, I wasn't even at your house when it happened. So how could that have affected you? Because I know what this feels like. I know. I can feel that. You guys can feel it. You feel it at your work. You feel it in the grocery store. You feel it all over the place. You are violating one another's free will all the time. But it's okay, though, because you're not punching each other in the face or anything. You know, you're not leaping around with each other's spouses or anything. You're doing pretty good. You know, you're doing all right. You're giving. You volunteer. You do seva. You volunteer. You do nice things. See, the thing is looking at that choice point, we have to really get over ourselves. Step out of glorifying your ego, because that's all it is. The glorification of separation, and understanding that as you move to a next level, and that's why I said SageMind Alchemy isn't for you if you don't really want to see some of these places. Because once you see, you can't unsee it. Once you hear something, you can't unhear it. Because even if you're in here going, screw Padma, I don't think so. Because, you know, I'm super nice. I've even won awards for how nice I am and how good I am. My family says I'm the nicest one in the family. I'm always the one that's a peacemaker, after all. It doesn't matter. You won't be able to unhear what you've heard. Sooner or later, universal law will come back. And there'll come a point in time where you're going to have to say, you know what? this same thing called karma keeps happening to me over and over again. No matter where I am, no matter who I'm with, no matter where I live, I wonder if there's something to that. I wonder if it's time that I shut this mind up and I really humble myself and move into that space of love. And this is why when you look through the Yoga Sutras, Yoga Sutra, the first pada, the second pada, and the third pada, all three padas, these teachings are from the third pada, by the way. SageMind Alchemy, a big part of it is from the more mystical, very powerful aspects of yoga. It's from the second pada and the third pada, from the practice, from the sadhana, and then also mastery of the mind. And it's in all three padas. And every time I go visit Panditji, I'll spend this time getting ready to go to India, all excited. I'm going to go hear these new teachings, and it will always be, let's chant 133 together. Maitri Madhima Mudito Vekshanam Sukha Dukkha Punya Punya Veshayanam Vadanaschita Persadanam. In essence, what this is telling us is celebrate the successes of those that we find ourselves jealous or envious of. Hold a space of love and virtue for the wicked. Compassion for the friendly and unfriendly. Last time I went to India, first thing, we spent like 3 days on that. Second pada, 2 sutras, how to practice that. Third pada, just before talking about all these higher principles. And the bottom line is, if you haven't figured out the importance of non-violation of free will and the mastery of the yamas and niyamas, and you're still going around and you got your mind going on, you have no business going any further. You don't have to have it mastered. Remember that, guys. See, when I said to you guys, you want to be 100% all in, it's important to note that 100% all in is a state of mind. But in the material world, the flesh is weak, right? I mean, in the material world. But guess what that gives you the opportunity to do? Choose. Do I stay asleep? I'm all in. I did everything to be all in. And oh my God, I completely forgot. But oh, that's right. That's the great thing about accountability. Because then I can see where I fail, and then I get to practice confronting the uncomfortable truths that could actually lead me to the greatest spiritual evolution ever and move me more in alignment with Dharma. The figure 8, this movement of infinity, that the ultimate, most important thing that we must understand is that to live universal law, it's each other. It's each other. It's our ability to mind, spirit, mind, words, and physical. Be kind to others. It's the greatest spiritual power that Patanjali speaks of, that Jesus Christ spoke of, Krishna speaks of, and we have to take care that we don't get dull to that, going, oh, here we go again. If I want to be a spiritual master, I'm going to have to be a really nice person. I know this already. No, you don't. Because you can't possibly know it until you've awakened to the uncomfortable truths within yourself and the way you withdraw love from yourself. The way you learn to live aligned with universal law is directly proportionate to the loving relationship you have with yourself. If you are in love with you, you can't not be in love with me. If you truly know what that is, you can't see me and not be, oh my God, I love you so much. It's because love recognizes love. Just like hatred recognizes hatred. Those that look down in shame upon themselves will always feel shamed by others. Those that look down upon themselves in guilt and just dismay will look upon others with the same and will be perceiving the others the same. And this is how we begin to violate one another's free will. Now, take that part about free will and just put it on a shelf. You just need to be introduced to it. Take it and just put it on a shelf for right now. Celebrate the fact that you're so brilliant that you're here to hear these words. That's the main thing to celebrate. Get back to the simple stuff, right? Because all I did was give you a target. I'm seeking to remind you what a creator that you are and how easily we can mess that up and how easily that can go askew. And really understanding, put that on a shelf and revisit the yamas and the niyamas. Revisit the yamas and the niyamas. Read Punitji's commentary on that. Please do not go Google it, because you could get into some dogmatic thing that's telling you what an awful person you are if you break. You don't want to do that. Just because one person comments on something dogmatic like that does not make it. Spend some time and go back to the fundamentals, the very important fundamentals, and start to look at the yamas and the niyamas as the code to living universal law. And then ultimately understanding that the yamas and the niyamas, they're seeking to move you from the good and bad dogmatic viewpoint to raise your consciousness. Remember, you don't train here to be a better person, to not be a bad person or to be a good person. You train to be more conscious. The more conscious you are, the more aware you are. The more conscious we are, the more aware we are. The more aware we are, then the more clear we are on how we are affecting our field and the field around us. We've got to drop this notion of good and bad and right and wrong. And then from that space of consciousness, the more conscious I am, the more steady I'm able to become. I'm able to say, what is most aligned with Dharma in this moment? And then I make a decision. And that decision might be a royal fail. But you know what? If I'm highly conscious, I'm able to go, let me wake up to whatever shadow that brought up in me. I'm giving you the exact process of what happens. Let me wake up to whatever shadow that brought up in me. And now, as I become more conscious, what is the most helpful response to what I perceive as a fail? What's the most helpful response? Where have I not taken the action I need to take, have been in inaction? What next? And that's what SageMind Alchemy is. And it's the mastery of that and being able to take that to a new level. So in essence, the first couple of things that you're going to learn, you're going to go, oh yeah, I've been there, done that. I know all about the yamas and the niyamas now. Stop. And recognize that you're learning about the yamas and the niyamas from the perspective of universal things, of Krishna to Arjuna, understanding the world of duality and finding that unified space of the yogi in SageMind Alchemy. All right, take a deep cleansing breath. To and from and on all plans of existence. Drawing into this here and now, we acknowledge the presence of all saints, sages, gurus, teachers, and masters. May our minds be wise and clear. May our intention be pure. May our hearts be merciful and loving. Namaste.